What would you do if your closest friends abandoned you at the altar as a prank, laughing at your panic from the hotel bar? For Nikolai Vashenko, this wasn't hypothetical, it was reality. When his 5 childhood friends disappeared minutes before his $68,000 wedding with 250 guests waiting, most people would have exploded in rage or collapsed in humiliation. But our guest chose strategy instead. Within hours, he transformed his betrayal into a masterclass in accountability that left his so-called friends begging for forgiveness. I'm Eliza, and today on Wedding Day Justice, we're exploring how calculated responses transform betrayal into opportunity, and why the most powerful consequences are delivered with quiet dignity, not emotional outbursts.
Thank you, Eliza. I'm sharing this story because I want people to understand that true friendship means showing up when it matters most, not just when it's convenient or fun. The lessons I learned about loyalty that day changed how I view relationships forever. Let me tell you what happened. Standing in front of the mirror, I adjusted my tie for the 5th time, trying to calm my nerves. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, my wedding to Maya, the woman who had captured my heart 3 years ago. The ceremony was scheduled to begin in just 2 hours at the Oceanside Pavilion, where 250 guests were already starting to arrive. My phone buzzed with a text from my father-in-law-to-be, Richard. "We're all set on our end. Maya looks beautiful. How are the guys doing?" I glanced around the empty suite, my stomach tightening. My 4 groomsmen, Keith, Darren, Jason, and Trevor, guys I'd known since college, were supposed to be here an hour ago. I'd sent multiple texts and calls, but received only vague responses about being on their way or running a bit late. "Everything's fine," I lied, not wanting to worry Richard or worse, Maya. "See you soon." Another 30 minutes passed. The wedding planner, Sophia, knocked on my door. "We need the groomsmen for photos in 20 minutes, she reminded me, her clipboard clutched tightly against her chest. "Is everything okay?" "They're just running late," I said, forcing a smile while cold dread spread through me. "Bachelor party went a bit long last night." That was partially true. After the rehearsal dinner, the guys had insisted on taking me out for one last celebration of freedom. I'd agreed to a few drinks but left early, wanting to be fresh for the wedding. They had continued without me, promising they'd be ready on time today. Finally, at the 1-hour mark before the ceremony, Keith called. "Dude," he slurred, clearly still intoxicated. "We might be a bit later than expected." Laughter echoed in the background, familiar voices, my supposed best friends. "What do you mean later? The ceremony starts in an hour. Where are you?" My voice was tight, controlled, even as panic began to rise. "We're at the Cove," he replied, naming a beach bar about 40 minutes away. "Got a little carried away. Don't worry, we'll make it." More laughter in the background, then Trevor's voice. "Maybe." The call disconnected. I immediately tried calling back, but it went straight to voicemail. I texted all 4 of them. "This isn't funny. The ceremony starts in an hour. You need to be here now." No response. 15 minutes later, Sophia returned, now visibly concerned. "We really need to start photos. The photographer is waiting and we're on a tight schedule." "I don't think they're coming," I finally admitted, my voice hollow. Sophia's professional composure cracked momentarily. "What, but they're your groomsmen, what happened?" I showed her my phone with the unanswered messages. "They're still drinking at some bar. They were supposed to be here 2 hours ago." Sophia immediately went into crisis management mode. "Okay, we can adjust. Let's do your solo photos now and we'll figure out the rest. Do you have anyone else who could step in?" The question hit me like a physical blow. These weren't just random friends, they were the guys who'd been with me through everything. College, my first job, my father's funeral. Keith was supposed to be my best man, the one to hold the rings and stand beside me as I made the most important commitment of my life. I called Richard, finally telling him the truth. His response was immediate. "I'm on my way to your room. My brothers are here too. We'll stand with you." Then came the hardest part, telling Maya. I couldn't bear to do it over the phone, so I asked her mother to explain the situation gently. Minutes later, my phone rang. It was Maya. "Is it true?" Her voice was small, tight with emotion. "They're not coming." "I'm so sorry," I said, my throat constricting. They're still out drinking. I've been trying to reach them, but..." "I saw the group chat," she interrupted, her voice suddenly stronger, angrier. My cousin Leah is dating Trevor's roommate. He showed her the messages. My blood ran cold. What messages? They planned this, Kai. They've been planning it for weeks. They called it the final escape. They never intended to show up on time. It was all a prank to see how you'd handle it. Her voice broke. They were betting on whether you'd panic or not. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just irresponsibility or poor planning. It was deliberate. A calculated humiliation on what should have been the most important day of our lives. Maya, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. This isn't your fault, she said firmly. But I need to know what you want to do. We have options. We can postpone or… No, I said, sudden clarity washing over me. We're getting married today, with or without them. There was a pause, then I heard the smile in her voice. That's what I was hoping you'd say. A knock at my door signaled Richard's arrival. I need to go, I told Maya. Your dad's here. I love you. I love you too, she replied, and Kai, make them regret this. I opened the door to find Richard and his two brothers, all in formal attire, looking concerned but determined. I heard, Richard said simply, placing a hand on my shoulder. Those boys made a terrible mistake today, but we're here. We'll stand with you. Sophia reappeared, her professional demeanor back in place. We've adjusted the schedule. We'll do family photos after the ceremony instead, and I've spoken with security about what to do if your former groomsmen show up. I nodded, a strange calm settling over me. If they arrive before the ceremony starts, they can sit with the other guests. If they try to join the wedding party, they will be escorted out. Richard squeezed my shoulder. Are you sure you want to go through with this today? No one would blame you for postponing. I straightened my tie one final time. I'm marrying Maya today. Nothing is going to stop that. I paused, then added, but this isn't over, not by a long shot. As we walked toward the ceremony site, I could see guests already seated, murmuring among themselves, clearly wondering about the change in plans. Maya's grandmother, who had flown in from the Philippines, looked particularly distressed. I made a mental note of that, one more thing they would answer for. I took my place at the altar, Richard standing beside me as my impromptu best man, his brothers filling in for the missing groomsmen. The music began, and despite everything, my heart lifted at the thought of seeing Maya walk down the aisle. Just as the bridal party began their procession, I saw movement at the back of the venue. 4 disheveled figures in wrinkled suits stumbled in, clearly intoxicated, drawing disapproving looks from the guests. Keith caught my eye and had the audacity to grin and give me a thumbs up, as if arriving during the ceremony was some kind of achievement. Security moved toward them, but I gave a subtle shake of my head. Let them watch. Let them see what they'd done. Let them witness what they'd nearly ruined. And then Maya appeared, radiant in her gown that combined elements of Western and Filipino design, a subtle nod to her heritage. The sight of her momentarily washed away all thoughts of betrayal and revenge. This was still our day, and nothing would taint it, not even the 4 men who now awkwardly took seats in the back row, finally seeming to realize the magnitude of their prank. As Maya reached me, she squeezed my hand and whispered, "We got this." And in that moment, with her by my side, I knew we did. The ceremony would proceed, we would be married, and later, much later, there would be a reckoning. As Maya stood beside me, her hand warm in mine, the celebrant began the ceremony. "Dearly beloved," she said, her voice carrying across the pavilion, "we are gathered here today to witness the union of Kai and Maya in holy matrimony." I scanned the crowd briefly. 250 guests watched us with expressions ranging from joy to confusion. In the front row, Maya's grandmother dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief, while beside her, Maya's mother sat with perfect posture, her eyes occasionally darting to the back where my 4 former friends sat, her disapproval evident. The celebrant continued, "Before we proceed, Kai and Maya have asked me to acknowledge a change in today's proceedings. Due to unexpected circumstances, the wedding party has been adjusted. Standing with Kai today is Maya's father, Richard, and her uncles, who have graciously stepped in to support the couple." A murmur rippled through the crowd. From the corner of my eye, I could see Keith shifting uncomfortably in his seat, while Darren stared fixedly at the ground. "Good, let them squirm." In many ways, the celebrant continued, this change reflects the very essence of marriage, the ability to adapt, to overcome obstacles together, and to find strength in family when challenges arise. Maya squeezed my hand, and when I turned to look at her, the love in her eyes nearly overwhelmed me. We'd known each other for 3 years, having met at a charity gala where we were both volunteers. She was brilliant, a pediatric surgeon with a gift for putting even the most frightened children at ease. I'd fallen for her compassion first, then her wit, then everything else. Kai and Maya have chosen to write their own vows, the celebrant announced. Kai, would you like to begin? I took a deep breath, suddenly aware of the weight of the moment. The betrayal of my groomsmen had shaken me, but standing here now, I realized with perfect clarity what truly mattered. Maya, I began, my voice steady despite the emotions swirling within me. When I woke up this morning, I thought I knew exactly how today would unfold. I had it all planned out, every moment, every word I would say to you, but life had other plans. I paused, gathering my thoughts, and that's the first lesson of today. No matter how carefully we plan, life will surprise us. What matters isn't the surprise itself, but how we face it together. A few knowing glances were exchanged among the guests, but I continued, focusing solely on Maya. I promise to stand by you through every surprise life throws our way, the joyful ones and the painful ones. I promise to be your partner, your confidant, and your biggest supporter. I promise to honor your heritage as you have honored mine, to embrace your family as my own, and to build a home with you where love and respect are the foundation. Maya's eyes glistened with unshed tears, but her smile never faltered. Most of all, I concluded, I promise that no matter what obstacles we face, I will face them with you, hand in hand, heart to heart, for all the days of our lives. As Maya began her vows, I became aware of movement at the back of the pavilion. Keith had stood up, swaying slightly, and was attempting to approach the altar. One of the security guards moved swiftly to intercept him, and after a brief, hushed exchange, Keith reluctantly returned to his seat, his face flushed with embarrassment or anger, perhaps both. I refocused on Maya, whose voice remained strong and clear despite the distraction. Kai, she was saying, today has taught me that while we can't control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond. And your response today, your grace under pressure, your unwavering commitment has only deepened my love and respect for you. She paused, taking a steadying breath. I promise to be your safe harbor in every storm. I promise to support your dreams as fiercely as you support mine. I promise to honor the traditions of your tribe and to help create new traditions that are uniquely ours. I thought of my father then, how proud he would have been to see this moment, to witness the blending of cultures and families. His absence was a familiar ache, but somehow less painful today, surrounded by the love of our new extended family. I promise, Maya continued, that no matter what challenges we face, no matter who may fail us or disappoint us, we will always have each other, and that will always be enough. The exchange of rings went smoothly, Richard stepping forward at the perfect moment to hand me Maya's band. The simple gold ring, inlaid with a pattern inspired by traditional designs from my tribe, slid perfectly onto her finger. In return, she placed my matching band on my finger, the metal warm from being held in her hand. By the power vested in me, the celebrant declared, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Kai, you may kiss your bride. As our lips met, the pavilion erupted in applause. For that perfect moment, the betrayal of the morning faded away, replaced by the joy of beginning our life together as husband and wife. We turned to face our guests, and the celebrant announced, Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to you, for the first time as a married couple, Mr. and Mrs. Kai and Maya Santiago. As we proceeded down the aisle, guests reached out to touch our hands or offer quick congratulations. When we passed the row where my former groomsmen sat, I deliberately kept my gaze forward, not giving them the satisfaction of acknowledgement. Maya, however, fixed them with a look so cold it could have frozen the ocean beside us. In the receiving line that followed, Maya's grandmother approached us, her tiny frame belying her formidable presence. You did well, she told me in her accented English, patting my cheek. Those boys, she added, lowering her voice, they show no respect for you, for Maya, for marriage itself. I know, Lola, I replied, using the affectionate Filipino term for grandmother that she had asked me to call her, but they won't ruin our day. No, she agreed, her eyes twinkling with unexpected mischief, but perhaps they should not go unpunished, yes. I couldn't help but smile, my thoughts exactly. As the receiving line continued, I noticed Keith, Darren, Jason, and Trevor hovering uncertainly at the edges of the gathering. They had sobered up somewhat but still looked disheveled compared to the other guests. Several times they attempted to approach, but either security or the natural buffer of other guests kept them at bay. Finally, as the last guests moved toward the reception area, Keith managed to break through. "Kai," he began, his voice a mixture of defensiveness and forced joviality. "Man, I'm really sorry about this morning. We just lost track of time, got a little carried away. No harm done, right? The ceremony was beautiful." Beside me, I felt Maya stiffen. Before I could respond, Richard stepped forward, positioning himself slightly between us and Keith. "This isn't the time," Richard said, his voice low but firm. "My daughter and son-in-law are about to join their reception. If you and your friends would like to apologize properly, you can do so tomorrow. Today is for celebration." Keith's face reddened. "Look, no disrespect, sir, but this is between me and Kai. We've been friends for 15 years. This is just a misunderstanding." "It's not a misunderstanding," I interrupted, keeping my voice level despite the anger simmering beneath. "You deliberately chose to humiliate me on my wedding day. You planned it, joked about it, bet on my reaction. There's nothing to misunderstand." Keith paled. "How did you?" "It doesn't matter how I know," I said. "What matters is that I do. Now, as Richard said, this isn't the time. Enjoy the reception if you want to stay, but keep your distance. We'll talk tomorrow." Without waiting for his response, I took Maya's hand, and together with Richard and Sophia, the wedding planner, we made our way to the reception area where our guests awaited us. As we paused at the entrance, preparing for our introduction, Maya leaned close. "Are you okay?" I considered the question carefully. The betrayal still stung, but it was overshadowed by the joy of our marriage and the support of our families. "I'm better than okay," I told her honestly. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, with exactly the right person." She smiled, that brilliant smile that had first captured my heart. "Good, because there's a room full of people waiting to celebrate us, and I intend to enjoy every minute." "And tomorrow?" I asked, already thinking of what needed to be done. Her eyes gleamed with determination. "Tomorrow, we make them regret ever thinking they could ruin this day for us." The DJ's voice boomed through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the newlyweds Kai and Maya Santiago." Hand in hand, we stepped into the reception, greeted by cheers and applause, ready to celebrate our union, and to begin planning a reckoning that would come all too soon for four men who had made the worst mistake of their lives. The reception venue glowed with soft ambient lighting, highlighting the careful blend of our cultural elements. Centerpieces featuring both orchids from the Philippines and native flowers from my tribal heritage, table numbers written in both English and Tagalog, and a carefully curated playlist that included traditional music from both our backgrounds alongside contemporary favorites. As Maya and I took our seats at the head table, now flanked by her father and uncles rather than my groomsmen, I couldn't help but notice the four conspicuously empty chairs that had been reserved for Keith, Darren, Jason, and Trevor. Sophia had offered to remove them, but I'd declined. Let the empty seats serve as a visible reminder of their betrayal. The four men themselves had been seated at a table near the back, as far from the head table as possible while still technically being part of the celebration. They looked uncomfortable, particularly as other guests occasionally glanced their way with undisguised disapproval. Word had spread quickly about what had happened. Dinner was served, a fusion menu that Maya and I had spent weeks perfecting with the caterer. As we ate, Richard leaned toward me, his voice low. "I've spoken with a few people. Apparently they arrived at the ceremony in a rideshare, completely intoxicated. The driver nearly refused to let them out." "They're lucky he didn't," I replied, cutting into my perfectly cooked steak. "They might have saved themselves some embarrassment." Richard nodded, then hesitated before continuing. "Maya mentioned something about a group chat, about this being planned." According to what she heard, yes, they called it the final escape. Apparently, they thought it would be hilarious to see me panic when they didn't show up on time. The words tasted bitter in my mouth. Richard's expression darkened. "That's beyond a prank, Kai, that's malicious." "I know," I agreed, glancing over at Maya, who was deep in conversation with her mother. "And they'll answer for it, but not tonight. Tonight is for Maya and me." As if sensing my gaze, Maya turned and smiled at me, reaching for my hand under the table. Her touch centered me, reminding me of what truly mattered. After the main course, it was time for toasts. In our original plan, Keith would have spoken first as best man, followed by Maya's maid of honor, Elena. Now Richard stood, tapping his glass gently with a spoon to gather everyone's attention. "For those who don't know me," he began, "I'm Richard, Maya's father and, as of about 2 hours ago, Kai's emergency best man." A ripple of knowing laughter moved through the crowd. Not exactly how any of us pictured this day unfolding, but sometimes life's unexpected turns reveal important truths. He turned slightly to face Maya and me directly. "Today I witnessed something remarkable. When faced with a significant disappointment and, yes, a betrayal, Kai and Maya didn't falter. They adapted, they supported each other, and they proceeded with grace and dignity." His gaze swept the room, briefly pausing on the table where my former groomsmen sat. "In my experience, it's not the easy moments that define a marriage but how a couple faces adversity together. And if today is any indication, Kai and Maya have the foundation for an extraordinary life together." He raised his glass. "To Kai and Maya, may your love continue to be a source of strength, no matter what challenges come your way." "To Kai and Maya," the guests echoed, raising their glasses. Next came Elena, who had been Maya's roommate in medical school. Her toast was warm and funny, filled with anecdotes about Maya's dedication to her patients and how obviously smitten she had been after our first date. "She called me at midnight," Elena recalled, "and said, 'I think I just met the man I'm going to marry.' I told her she was being ridiculous, but it turns out she was right." As the toasts concluded and the DJ invited everyone to the dance floor for our first dance, I became aware of Keith approaching the head table. Security moved to intercept him, but I gave a subtle shake of my head. I was curious about what he might say. "Kai," he began, his voice low and urgent, "I need to explain. It wasn't supposed to go like this. We were just running late, that's all. This planned prank thing, someone's got it all wrong." I regarded him coolly. "Is that so? Then you won't mind showing me your group chat from the last few weeks." His face paled slightly. "What? That's private, and anyway my phone's dead." "Convenient," I remarked. "Look, Keith, this isn't the time or place. We have a first dance to do, and you're interrupting our reception." "But we've been friends for 15 years, he protested. "You can't just—" "15 years," I interrupted, "and yet you couldn't be bothered to show up on time for the most important day of my life. That says everything I need to know about how you value our friendship." I gestured toward the dance floor. "Now, if you'll excuse me, my wife is waiting." I left him standing there, mouth slightly agape, and joined Maya at the center of the dance floor. As the opening notes of our chosen song, "At Last" by Etta James, filled the room, I took her in my arms. "Everything okay?" she murmured as we began to sway to the music. "Perfect," I assured her, meaning it despite everything. Keith tried to deny they planned it, but he couldn't even look me in the eye while doing it. Maya's expression hardened momentarily before softening again. "Let's not let them take up any more space in our heads tonight. This is our moment." She was right, of course. As we moved across the dance floor, the watching faces of our guests, the soft lighting, even the betrayal of the morning, all of it faded away until there was nothing but Maya in my arms, her eyes reflecting the same love I felt overflowing in my heart. When the song ended, the DJ invited Maya's father to join her for the father-daughter dance. As I stepped aside, I noticed my former groomsmen huddled near the bar, deep in conversation. They looked worried, as well they should be. Maya's grandmother approached me, her small hand patting my arm. "You dance well with my Maya," she said approvingly. "Thank you, Lola," I replied with a smile. "She makes it easy." She followed my gaze to the 4 men by the bar. "Those boys," she said, her voice hardening, "they dishonor you, they dishonor themselves." Yes, I agreed, they do. "In the Philippines," she continued, "respect is everything, family is everything. What they did," she shook her head, clearly struggling to find words strong enough in English. "I understand," I told her, "and in my tribe, loyalty and keeping your word are sacred values. They broke faith with me." She nodded vigorously. "Yes, exactly this, broke faith." She squeezed my arm. "But you are a good man, the right man for my Maya, this I know." As the father-daughter dance concluded, the DJ opened the floor to all guests. The celebration continued. Dinner gave way to cake cutting, which gave way to dancing and mingling. Throughout it all, I maintained my distance from Keith, Darren, Jason, and Trevor, though I was acutely aware of their presence, like a splinter under my skin. Several times they attempted to approach me individually, but each time, either Richard, one of Maya's uncles, or one of my cousins who had made the journey for the wedding intercepted them. It was as if a protective circle had formed around Maya and me, a living barrier against those who had tried to ruin our day. As the evening progressed, I noticed something interesting. The four men were becoming increasingly isolated. Other guests, picking up on the situation, were giving them a wide berth. Even those who had been mutual friends seemed reluctant to engage with them. Actions, as they say, have consequences. Near the end of the evening, as Maya and I prepared for our exit through a tunnel of sparklers held by our guests, Sophia approached us with a concerned expression. "I hate to bother you," she said, "but your former groomsmen are insisting on speaking with you before you leave. They're quite persistent. Should I have security escort them out?" I exchanged a glance with Maya, who gave me a subtle nod. "No," I decided. "Tell them they can come to our hotel tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., room 512. If they want to explain themselves, they can do it then." Sophia nodded, relief evident in her expression. "I'll let them know." As she departed, Maya squeezed my hand. "Are you sure about this? We're supposed to have brunch with my family before heading to the airport." "I'm sure," I confirmed. "It won't take long. They'll say their piece, I'll say mine, and then we'll go to brunch as planned. Besides," I added with a grim smile, "I have something special prepared for them." Maya's eyebrows rose. "Oh, and when did you have time to prepare anything?" "I made a few calls during the cocktail hour," I explained. "Let's just say I've been gathering information, and tomorrow morning they're going to learn exactly what their prank has cost them." A slow smile spread across Maya's face. "Have I told you lately that I love the way your mind works?" "Not in the last hour," I teased. She leaned in, pressing a kiss to my lips. "I love the way your mind works, Maya Santiago, and I can't wait to see what you've planned." With that, we made our way to the exit, where our guests had formed two lines, sparklers held high. As we ran through the tunnel of light, cheers, and well wishes surrounding us, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Despite everything, this day had been perfect in all the ways that truly mattered. We climbed into the waiting car, waving to our guests as the driver pulled away from the venue. As the celebrations faded behind us, Maya rested her head on my shoulder. "What a day," she murmured. "Indeed," I agreed, pressing a kiss to her forehead, "but it's not over yet." She looked up at me, curiosity in her eyes. "The night's just beginning." I smiled, thinking not of our wedding night, but of the reckoning that would come with the morning. "That," I assured her, "and tomorrow promises to be equally memorable, just for very different reasons." Morning sunlight filtered through the sheer curtains of our hotel suite, casting golden patterns across the rumpled bedsheets. Maya slept peacefully beside me, her dark hair spread across the pillow, her breathing deep and even. I checked the time, 8:30 a.m., an hour and a half until my former groomsmen were due to arrive. I slipped out of bed carefully, not wanting to wake Maya just yet. Moving quietly to the suite's living area, I opened my laptop and reviewed the materials I'd assembled. Everything was in order. A soft knock at the door signaled the arrival of room service, coffee, and a light breakfast, as I'd requested the night before. I thanked the attendant, leaving a generous tip, and brought the tray to the bedroom, where Maya was now stirring. "Good morning, Mrs. Santiago," I said, setting the tray on the bedside table. She smiled sleepily, stretching like a cat. "Good morning, Mr. Santiago. Is that coffee I smell?" "It is indeed." I poured her a cup, adding the precise amount of cream she preferred. "Sleep well." Moo like a rock, she accepted the coffee gratefully, taking a sip before eyeing me over the rim of the cup. "You're already dressed. What time is it?" "Almost 9. Our guests will be here in about an hour." Maya's expression shifted, the soft contentment of moments before replaced by something harder. "Right, the reckoning." "You don't have to be here for this," I offered. "You could get ready for brunch, meet me downstairs when it's over." She shook her head firmly. "Not a chance. They disrespected both of us yesterday. I want to see their faces when they realize what that's going to cost them." I couldn't help but smile. This fierce loyalty, this unwavering support, it was just one of the countless reasons I loved her. "In that case, you'd better get ready, and maybe wear something intimidating." She laughed, a sound that still made my heart skip a beat even after 3 years together. "I think I can manage that." By 9:45, we were both prepared. Maya looked stunning in a sleek black dress that she'd packed for our honeymoon departure, her hair pulled back in a severe bun that emphasized her striking features. I wore dark jeans and a button-down shirt, casual but put together. On the coffee table in the suite sitting area, I had arranged 4 identical manila envelopes, each labeled with one of my former groomsmen's names. Beside them sat my laptop, open to a specific folder, and my phone, set to record. "Are you nervous?" Maya asked, adjusting one of her earrings. I considered the question. Not nervous, exactly, more resolved. This friendship ended yesterday morning when they decided a prank was more important than our wedding. Today is just about making that official and making sure they understand the consequences of their choices. She nodded, moving to stand beside me. "They're lucky, you know, if it were up to me." "I know," I said with a small smile. "Your version of justice would probably involve scalpels." "I am a surgeon," she replied with mock innocence. "It's just how I think." At precisely 10 a.m., a tentative knock sounded at our door. I exchanged a final glance with Maya, who gave me an encouraging nod before moving to answer it. All 4 of them stood in the hallway, looking considerably worse for wear. Keith's eyes were bloodshot, Darren couldn't seem to meet my gaze, Jason kept shifting his weight from foot to foot, and Trevor's usual smirk was noticeably absent. "Come in," I said simply, stepping aside to allow them entry. They filed in silently, their discomfort palpable as they took in the sight of Maya standing by the window, her posture rigid, her expression coolly professional, the same expression I imagined that she wore in the operating room when confronting a particularly challenging case. "Sit," I instructed, gesturing to the couch and chairs arranged around the coffee table. They complied without argument, an unusual occurrence for this typically boisterous group. I remained standing, positioning myself beside Maya. "Before we begin, I want to be clear about something. This isn't a discussion or a negotiation. You will listen, and when I'm finished, you will leave. Is that understood?" 4 heads nodded in unison. "Good." I picked up my phone, making a show of activating the recording function. "This conversation is being recorded for my protection. Any objections?" Keith started to speak, but Darren nudged him sharply. "No objections," Darren said quietly. "Excellent." I set the phone down on the table. "Let's start with what actually happened yesterday, shall we? Not your version, the truth." I turned my laptop toward them, clicking on a video file. The screen displayed security footage from the Cove, the beach bar where they'd spent the morning of my wedding. The timestamp showed 9:17 a.m., less than 3 hours before the ceremony was scheduled to begin. In the video, the 4 of them sat at a table covered in empty glasses, clearly intoxicated despite the early hour. Keith was speaking, his words captured by the bar's security system. "He's probably freaking out by now," video Keith slurred, checking his watch and laughing. "Blow up his phone, Trev. Let's see how many messages we can get him to send before he figures out we're not coming." Video Trevor complied, pulling out his phone with exaggerated movements. "Oh man, he's called like 6 times already. Listen to this voicemail." He held up the phone and my own voice emerged, tense but controlled. "Guys, this isn't funny. The ceremony starts in 2 hours. You need to be here. Call me back." All 4 of them dissolved into laughter. "The final escape is a success," video Jason declared, raising a shot glass. "To freedom." "To freedom," the others echoed, downing their shots. I paused the video, turning to face them. Keith's face had drained of color, while Darren looked like he might be ill. That's not what it looks like," Keith began desperately. "We were just joking around. We were always planning to make it to the ceremony." "Really?" I raised an eyebrow, clicking to another file. "Because that's not what your group chat suggests." The screen now displayed screenshots of their private conversation, dating back 3 weeks before the wedding. Messages detailing the final escape plan, complete with a schedule for how late they should arrive, bets on how I would react, and crude jokes about saving me from the old ball and chain. "How did you get those?" Trevor demanded, his face flushing with anger or embarrassment, possibly both. "Does it matter?" Maya spoke for the first time, her voice cold enough to freeze flame. "What matters is that you deliberately planned to humiliate my husband on our wedding day. You thought it would be funny to leave him standing alone at the altar, to force him to explain to 250 guests why his supposed best friends weren't there." "It was just supposed to be a prank," Jason protested weakly. "We were going to show up eventually." "You showed up during the ceremony," I reminded him. drunk, disheveled, creating a distraction during one of the most important moments of our lives. And you have the audacity to call that a prank, Maya added, her voice tight with controlled anger. Do you have any idea what you put Kai through, what you put me through? Keith leaned forward, his expression pleading. Look, we screwed up, we know that. We're here to apologize. We've been friends for 15 years, Kai. That has to count for something. It did count for something, I replied evenly. It's why I made you my groomsman. It's why I trusted you with one of the most important roles on the most important day of my life, and you betrayed that trust for a laugh. I reached for the manila envelopes on the coffee table, distributing one to each of them. Inside these envelopes, you'll find several items. First, an itemized list of what your prank cost us financially, your portion of the photographer's fee for the groomsmen photos we couldn't take, the boutonnieres that went unworn, the rental suits you failed to pick up, and so on. You'll each be reimbursing us for your share. They opened the envelopes silently, eyes widening at the figures. Second, I continued, you'll find a letter formally ending our friendship. I've outlined exactly why I no longer wish to associate with any of you, both professionally and personally. I've also taken the liberty of informing our mutual friends and colleagues about your behavior, with video evidence where appropriate. You can't be serious, Darren breathed, looking up from his envelope with genuine shock. I've never been more serious in my life, I assured him. Actions have consequences, Darren. It's time you learned that. There's one more thing, Maya added, her professional demeanor never wavering. The third item in your envelopes. They shuffled through the papers, each pulling out a printed confirmation email. What's this? Jason asked, frowning at the document. That, I explained, is a confirmation of the donation made in your name to the Indigenous Youth Education Foundation. Each of you has generously donated the exact amount you would have spent on your portion of our planned group trip to Bali next month, a trip that, needless to say, you are no longer invited to join. You can't do that, Trevor protested. That's like what, $3,000 each? $3,250 to be precise, Maya confirmed with a cold smile. Don't worry, you've each received a tax receipt for your charitable contribution. This is insane, Keith sputtered, his face flushing with anger. We made a mistake, sure, but this is vindictive. No, I corrected him quietly. Vindictive would be sharing that security footage with your employers. Vindictive would be sending those group chat screenshots to your girlfriends, parents, and extended families. Vindictive would be ensuring that every time someone searches your names online, this story is what they find. I leaned forward slightly, meeting each of their gazes in turn. I'm not doing any of those things yet. Consider this your one and only warning. Accept the consequences outlined in those envelopes and we're done. Push back, try to minimize what you did, or attempt to paint me as the villain in this story, and I promise you, you will regret it far more than you already do. A heavy silence fell over the room. Finally, Darren spoke, his voice subdued. I'm sorry, Kai, truly, what we did was inexcusable. Yes, it was, I agreed simply. So that's it, Keith asked, disbelief evident in his tone. 15 years of friendship just over. It ended the moment you decided my wedding day was an appropriate target for your prank, I told him. Today is just making it official. I glanced at my watch. Now, if you'll excuse us, Maya and I have a brunch to attend with people who actually respect us in our marriage. You can see yourselves out. They rose slowly, gathering their envelopes, the weight of consequence finally seeming to settle on their shoulders. As they shuffled toward the door, Jason paused, turning back. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I am sorry, we all are. I believe you, I replied, my voice softening slightly. But sometimes, sorry isn't enough. Sometimes the damage can't be undone. After they left, Maya moved to my side, slipping her arm around my waist. You okay? I took a deep breath, feeling a curious mixture of sadness and relief. Yeah, I think I am. It's not how I expected our post-wedding morning to go, but it needed to be done, she finished for me. Exactly, I pressed a kiss to her temple. Thank you for standing with me. Always, she promised. That's what marriage is about, right? Standing together, especially when things get difficult. I smiled, realizing that in a strange way, my former friends had given us an unexpected wedding gift, our first test as a married couple, and the knowledge that we could face adversity together with strength and unity. We should get going, Maya said, checking the time. My family will be waiting. As we gathered our things and prepared to leave for brunch, I took one last look around the suite, at the laptop still displaying the damning evidence, at my phone with its recording of accountability, at the empty space where 4 men I'd once called friends had stood. A chapter of my life had closed, but a new one, a better one, was just beginning. With Maya by my side, I was ready to embrace whatever came next, secure in the knowledge that we had already weathered our first storm together and emerged stronger for it. "Ready?" Maya asked, her hand extended toward me. I took it without hesitation. Ready. 2 weeks later, Maya and I sat on the private balcony of our overwater bungalow in the Maldives, watching the sunset paint the horizon in spectacular shades of orange and pink. Our honeymoon had been everything we'd hoped for, a perfect balance of adventure and relaxation, far removed from the drama that had marked our wedding day. "Penny for your thoughts," Maya said, passing me a glass of chilled white wine. I accepted it with a smile, just thinking about how lucky I am. Despite everything, I wouldn't change a thing about how we got here. She raised an eyebrow. "Really? Not even the groomsmen fiasco?" I considered this, watching a school of colorful fish dart beneath the crystal-clear water below our bungalow. As strange as it sounds, no, it showed me who truly matters in my life. It brought your family and mine closer together, and it gave us our first challenge as a married couple when we faced together and overcame. Maya nodded thoughtfully. "I suppose you're right, though I still occasionally fantasize about what else we could have included in those envelopes." I laughed, reaching for her hand. "Your vindictive streak is showing, Dr. Santiago." "Just one of my many charms," she replied with a wink. "Speaking of those envelopes, have you heard anything?" "Actually, yes." I set my wine glass down on the small table between our chairs. "I got an email from Darren yesterday. He's paid his share of the costs and made the donation. He also sent a longer apology, seems genuine enough." "And the others?" "Jason paid too, no message attached, nothing from Keith or Trevor yet." Maya's expression hardened slightly. "Their loss, I hope they realize what they threw away." "I think they will, eventually." I gazed out at the horizon where the first stars were beginning to appear. Some lessons take time to sink in. My phone chimed with an incoming message. Under normal circumstances, I would have ignored it. We'd agreed to minimize technology during our honeymoon, but something prompted me to check. It was from Richard, Maya's father. "Hope the honeymoon is wonderful. Thought you might want to see this. Karma works in mysterious ways." Attached was a link to a local news article. I opened it, then couldn't help but laugh. "What is it?" Maya asked, leaning over to see. "Apparently, Keith, Trevor, and 3 other guys got arrested last night," I explained, skimming the article. "They were at the Cove, the same bar from our wedding day, and got into a fight with another group. Property damage, public intoxication, the works." "Let me guess," Maya said dryly, "they were celebrating their freedom." According to the article, they were drowning their sorrows over lost friendship and wasted money. Seems our envelopes hit harder than expected. Maya took the phone, reading the article herself. "It says Keith might lose his job over this. His company has a strict code of conduct policy." I felt a twinge of something, not quite sympathy but not satisfaction either. That wasn't part of my plan. "No," Maya agreed, handing the phone back, "but as my grandmother would say, what goes around comes around. They made their choices just like we made ours." I nodded, setting the phone aside. This news was an unexpected epilogue to a chapter I'd considered closed, but it didn't change anything. My focus was on the future, our future, not on the past I'd left behind. "Enough about them," I decided, raising my glass. "A toast." Maya smiled, lifting her own glass. "What are we toasting to?" "To unexpected beginnings," I proposed. "To facing challenges together, to building a life based on respect, trust, and unwavering support." "I'll drink to that," she agreed, clinking her glass against mine, "and to many more sunsets just like this one." As we sipped our wine, a comfortable silence settling between us, I reflected on the journey that had brought us here. The path hadn't been straight or smooth, but every twist and turn had led to this perfect moment, watching the day end and the night begin with the woman I loved by my side. In the grand scheme of things, the betrayal of my former friends was just a footnote in our story. What mattered was how we'd responded to it, with dignity, unity, and a determination to not let it define our beginning as husband and wife. You know, Maya said, eventually breaking the silence, my grandmother called yesterday while you were diving. She asked if we were still planning to visit the Philippines this Christmas. Absolutely, I confirmed. I've been looking forward to it. Why did she think we might change our minds? No, quite the opposite. She's already planning the celebration. Apparently half the village will be there to meet you. She's very proud of how you handled everything. I smiled at the thought of Lola with her tiny frame and indomitable spirit. She's a remarkable woman. I can see where you get your strength. She said something else too, Maya continued, a hint of mischief in her eyes. Something about hoping we give her great-grandchildren soon because she's not getting any younger. I laughed, not entirely surprised. No pressure then. None at all, Maya agreed with a smile. Though, it's not the worst idea, is it? Not right away, of course, but someday. The question hung in the air between us, full of possibility. We'd discussed children before in the abstract way couples do when planning a future together, but this felt different, more real, more immediate. Not the worst idea at all, I agreed softly. I can think of nothing I'd love more than to build a family with you, Maya Santiago. She leaned across the space between our chairs, pressing a kiss to my lips that tasted of wine and promise. Good, because I have a feeling our children will be extraordinary. With your integrity and my determination, they'll be unstoppable. Poor world won't know what hit it, I teased. As darkness fell completely, the stars emerged in full force, more brilliant than they ever appeared back home. The water below us glowed with bioluminescence, tiny creatures creating their own constellations in the sea. Should we head inside? Maya suggested, a meaningful look in her eyes. It's getting late, and we have that sunrise excursion tomorrow. Lead the way, Mrs. Santiago, I replied, taking her outstretched hand. As we moved from the balcony into our bungalow, I paused for one last look at the night sky. In my tribe's tradition, stars represented the spirits of ancestors watching over us, guiding our paths. I wondered briefly if my father was among them, witnessing this new chapter of my life. I like to think he would be proud, not just of the man I'd become, but of the boundaries I'd set, the respect I'd demanded, and the partner I'd chosen to walk beside me through whatever lay ahead. Kai, Maya called from inside. Everything okay? Everything's perfect, I assured her, turning away from the stars and toward the future that awaited us. A future built on the strongest foundation I could imagine. Mutual respect, unwavering support, and a love that had already weathered its first storm and emerged stronger for it. The betrayal that had marked our wedding day had, in its own way, been a gift, revealing who truly deserved a place in our lives and teaching us that together we could overcome any obstacle. It wasn't the beginning we'd planned, but perhaps it was exactly the beginning we needed. And as I closed the balcony door behind me, joining Maya in the warm light of our bungalow, I knew with absolute certainty that the best was yet to come.
Nikolai, thank you for sharing your story with us today. What you experienced was truly painful, but your response reveals a powerful truth. When we react with strategic dignity rather than impulsive emotion, we create consequences that teach rather than merely punish. Your groomsmen didn't just face embarrassment. They confronted the undeniable evidence of their betrayal in a way that forced genuine reflection. This isn't about revenge. It's about holding people accountable to their own promises and values. I'm Eliza Quinn, and remember, here on Wedding Day Justice, veils off, justice on.